Say yes to new beginnings.
Yes.
Say yes to new standards of excellence.
Yes.
Say yes to engaging reportage with a difference.
Yes.
Introducing Yes International Magazine. The time to say yes to your dreams and aspirations is here.
Mrs. Adesuwa Onyenokwe is an ace journalist, speaker, and coach. She was born on August 8, 1963, and that makes her 57 years old. Like I said earlier on, she combines beauty with brains. She is married to the love of her life, and that's talking about Mr. Onyenokwe, and they are blessed with 6 wonderful children. Ms. Onyenokwe at some point was with the Nigerian Television Authority. She is also the publisher of that beautiful magazine that all of us used to look forward to this woman. At some point, she was also the presenter of Seriously Speaking on Channels Television. She attended a Motown preparatory school in Benin City, from where she proceeded to the popular Idaya College, also in Benin. Thereafter, she left for the Obafemi Awolowo University in Ile-Ife, where she read drama. For her master's degree, she read language arts at the University of Ibadan. The ever elegant, the ever delectable, the ever prim and proper Mrs. Adesuwa Onyenokwe. Yes, now to have a taste of success in the media, what must one do?
Persistence is the #1 ingredient. I mean, of course, you have to have the skill too. Okay. But even if you didn't have the skill and you're persistent, you will learn and you will keep trying to improve yourself, regardless.
All right. So, what are the attributes of a good broadcaster?
One of the primary things is diction. And when I say diction, it does not necessarily mean that you have to speak like the Englishman. Okay. It means you have to be audible. You have to sound the words right. Okay. You have to practice your script and have complete control of whatever it is you're delivering, whether it's a script or you're just speaking extempore. You've got to, if you know what you're talking about and you practice, right? And you learn, like personally, I try to learn a new word, maybe not every day. At the beginning of my career, every day, I try to learn a new word. And learning is not only you have to sound it, and the most important thing is understanding what you are going to read or present. Because that way you can present it with confidence. You find that most people think it's about how the words are sounding, what we call free in our side. But the truth is, with the right pronunciation, what you should aim for is to be understood. That's why you have people who may not necessarily speak the Queen's English can still communicate in the environment, whatever environment they are in. So if you're in Nigeria now, and you're struggling to speak the Queen's English, and you don't have all the sounds right, you may lose people. But if you have the sounds right, even if you have an Igbo accent, and you're speaking and they understand what you're saying and they hear you, the chances are that you will communicate. However, if you are a broadcaster, the onus is on you to learn how to sound words right, because people are going to be learning from you. And for that, I need to practice. Learn, practice.
Yeah, so what are the attributes of a good story?
The stories that touch the heart, first of all, the stories that are human,
Okay.
the stories that when I listen or I read, I can find myself in it, whether it's finance, whether it's literature, whether it's science, whatever it is you're telling me, if you can paint pictures that I can see myself in, that I can identify with, I would listen to you, or I will watch you, or I will read you. So that's why a story that can connect to whoever it is that you are that's consuming your story, that's a good story. But you find that most times the story that touches the heart, sensation works because we want to get away. We want to hear that other people fail like we do. We want to know that people are human and they don't succeed, or if somebody's succeeding, you want to be like that person. That's why you find sometimes that people would rather read sensational stories. Because basically our lives to us is boring. And so reading about other people takes us away from our problems. That's why, for example, you find that comedy works. Things that are funny or things that are laughing at other people work because you're going away from your problems. But it's only temporary. The stories that you don't forget are the ones that you actually take something away from. The ones that you actually know about somebody and you take something away from that story that would help you be better. Those are the stories that people don't forget. Yes, people may watch the sensational ones. People may listen to the sensational ones, but it probably would not leave a permanent impact on them. From experience, that's what I think works. That's what I know works.
Wow. Well, I love that. So, what are the attributes of a good magazine?
I'm not sure about good. Depends on the public you're talking to. You have to be very sure of your public. I, for example, have been determined to talk to women primarily because I know how important they are in society because they are the glue that holds society together. So I've deliberately thought to communicate first to women because even if a woman picks the magazine, right, a man can still identify with it because you'll understand and probably learn to, a little bit about what makes women, how women's minds work or things like that. Or you like to look at the pictures or you learn some of the stories that we publish. So it's a function of what's your target market. And so what do they want? And if you can give them what they want, then you're a good magazine, So whatever it is you're publishing, you have to decide, okay, what do I want to tell people? Who do I want to talk to? So if I decide, in those days, we used to call some publications junk. I'm sure you remember.
I know.
The junk publications, these are junk.
Yes.
But junk publishers have their public.
That's true.
People are struggling to read it.
That's true.
I don't want to call names, but that's the truth. It's a market they're chosen to speak to. That's their market. You have an entertainment magazine, you're talking about entertainment, you have a market. So if you are feeding your public what they want to read, then you are a good magazine. But I may not want to read junk. That's my personal choice, right? So it's a function of you determine but you see, you find that because we want to sell, sometimes we feel that let's do this, let's publish this kind of magazine because people are buying it. But it may not be what is you're good at or what you're passionate about or what you really want to communicate, then you will never do it right. If I started to do junk today, I wouldn't even know the first thing to do. I wouldn't even know the first thing to do. I wouldn't. Because you have to have the language right, you have to have the pictures right, you have the heart to do it. But if you called me today to come and tell you stories about women, or about what makes women tick, or about what makes the human mind, how it works, I would do it. Because that's what I like. So it would be easy for me. I wouldn't even have to think. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
That's what I think.
All right. What are the attributes of a good interview?
Why are you so much into attributes? Azu?
We are trying to get the nitty gritty.
Yeah.
Do not delve into other issues.
So the attributes, because you see, these things are Okay, maybe because I've done more than 30 years,
Yeah.
so I can afford to be defining,
Yeah.
so I can be described as an authority of sorts.
Yeah.
So an attribute of a great interview with time, I mean, it's not like I learned it over, I realized that the best interviewers are those who are curious. If you are curious, they are more likely to listen and be able to catch some things that will help you bring follow-up questions that will bring out more. So you've got to, you first start by being very curious. And then with time, you learn to listen and don't interject too frequently. I used to have a problem when I'm interviewing, where I interject. That's because in my head, I know where I want to go. And I think the person I'm talking to is, I'm telling you, and I'm going forward. But at the end of the day, my viewers don't benefit because whether you like it or not, every interviewer knows where they're going.
That's true.
Most times.
That's true.
So I've learned that even if I know where I'm going, I may find other areas if I only listen. You know what I mean?
Yes, I
and
do.
therefore I should listen a little bit more. And you are interviewing, for example, for television, for live, you have half an hour, or even like Instagram. You know what you want to say, and you are determined, and you must finish it within 45 minutes,
Yeah.
right? And so, if the person you are talking to seems to be wasting time, you try to urge them on. So you have to learn to know that I may know where I'm going, but where the person is taking me may just be more interesting than where I'm going. And when I have an interview that's live, for example, I always tell my guests, you know what? Let's agree on some cues. If I start to twitch my finger, it means that I want to interrupt you. So you should know that I have something to say. The same thing, if you want me to stop, give me a silent cue. That's what I call silent cues. These are some of the things I teach when I'm teaching communication, being a great interviewer. There are some things that you do that you have learned over time. But at the end of the day, the strength of an interview is in how much the interviewer is able to get out of the person and the subject that they are interviewing with regards to the topic they've chosen, and enough if they have brought enough clarity to those who are listening or watching or reading.
I love that. Now, to continue to be relevant, what must today's journalists do?
They have to find out what's working and what's not.
Okay.
Take, for example, all of us, even oldies like us, have had to go to the digital space to use it. The point is, what do you want to do? You want to communicate. What's the mode of communication at any point in time? You've got to use it, and you've got to learn to use it right. So the best of communicators, or the best of people who are in the media, is knowing that they must learn to innovate. They must learn. I mean, I describe myself as a technophobe. It's still not very easy for me, but I learn, and I'm willing to fail and start. And in the past, when I would do an Instagram live, and after the first 5 minutes, the guest drops off, I start to panic. Even if I panic now, it's less. I start to panic and I start to worry. Oh, the time is gone. Oh, what did I press? Like talking to you today, what happened was, in trying to fit my telephone to the stand, I pressed my off button, my power button off on error. Ordinarily, I would be shouting, but I called for help immediately. Called my 19-year-old, called my husband who has better technology, and somehow we managed to get it right. They laughed at me, but I mean, hey. So if you have to be relevant, you've got to move with the times. Don't say I can't do it. Try and be ready to not be the best at the beginning and be starting from the back. You know what I mean? There are people who are expert on this, on this, what do you call it, on this platform now, right? But they didn't start yesterday. They grew on it. So grow on whatever platform it is that is available to you, and use it, because remember, your job as a media person or a media practitioner is to communicate through education, information, entertainment, whatever. That's your job. That's your passion. That's your desire. So find the means to do it and innovate if you have to.
Now, what's your candid assessment of Nigeria's media industry and the practitioners?
I would say I personally like the fact that there is more democratization, where you don't have to own some huge media outfit to be able to communicate. I like that. That's what the digital space and technology has done. In the past, you would have to belong to some, you have to use some media organization to pass on your message. Now you can just start your own and go to YouTube or Facebook if it's audiovisual, or go to Instagram. Even if you're not doing this live conversation, you can type, send your message, send your communication. I tell journalists, you don't have to say, oh, I want to be a reporter. Your phone is now a very powerful tool. When you see information that is key, so long as it's not a lie, you can use it. It may only be two people that watch it, but they can pass it on if your story is, if they can verify it and your story is engaging and it's catching. People will move it, whether it's through WhatsApp, Telegram, Facebook. What are the other ones that there are? Anything. So I like the fact that it is democratized, but I would appreciate if people are a little bit more responsible using it, because we must thank God that social media exists. Otherwise, most of some of the advancements that we have made, we won't make it. Imagine all those forward, 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 forward. Something happens and suddenly it's all over the world or all over somewhere. So that should be liberating for a true journalist, right? Who can have all these smartphones that we have, can be put to better use. Can be put to better use. Use it to inform people within your group, and slowly it will grow. But use it responsibly. You are only one data connection away from passing information. So I think it's a good thing that it's been democratized. But I just wish people would be more responsible. And then again, when we consume information here, let's take it with. But I mean, I'm sure, for example, I can see that you only just joined Instagram now. You have refused. You have joined Instagram too. Yes. For a while, you say, what have you done? You joined and you are doing what you should be doing on this space.
Thank you.
So, I think it's good. And you don't have to be like everybody else.
Yeah.
I don't have to be on Instagram every day. But I like the fact that it's available for me to use to reach people.
Thank you. Now, what mistakes must every journalist flee from?
What mistakes must they
flee from? Must they run away from?
Copycatting, photoshopping. You just take somebody's story and take a plagiarization if it is in written form, and if it's just you don't have to be like the next newscaster. You don't have to be like the next writer. You don't have to be like the next radio presenter. You don't have to be like them. You can create your own niche. Find the basic elements. What are the basic elements of writing? You have to be able to string words together. You have to be able to put tenses that are correct. You have to be able to write stories that are not boring, that people will sit down and be reading and they won't get your message. So you find what works for you, what can communicate your message better. So I find people trying to copycat and be like the next person. Instead, see what that person is doing and say, how can I make it my own? How can I make it my own? There cannot be another Adesuwa Onyenokwe. Never, it's not possible. You don't have individual fingerprints, but there can be people who can do what I do, and they'll do it differently, and they will have their own style, right? They'll do it differently. So we should refrain from copycatting, refrain from plagiarizing, because if you keep copycatting, you keep jumping from one person to the other to the other. There's nothing wrong with having a role model or having a model of the kind of thing you would like to do, but do it your own way. Do it and learn the rope. Don't just go and start writing or go and start saying or be on television or whatever. Shadow some people and find your own path.
All right. Now you made your name as a broadcaster, at NTA. What is your take on the current state of presentation and production on Nigeria's media space?
Well, the truth is, I was like maybe third generation of the NTA people, we still kind of like a close family. When we were working in that space, we didn't have the best of facilities, But clearly, everybody who worked in the past worked because they loved the job.
Mm.
The pay wasn't good, I can say it here, but the fact that we had that job, we liked it, we worked, and we enjoyed it. So we gave our best, but our best didn't, our salary didn't take us home. So when television was I mean, it's true now. When television was liberalized and more stations opened, found some people moved away because there was better salary. But even those stations can't afford to keep people. You know what I mean?
Yes, I
Because
do.
the cost of running a station is not easy. So what I'd say is that, if it's for the money, the media really doesn't pay. And you and I know that if it's for the money. But you can use your credibility or your name to make an income in different ways, right? When you're on the job, do it because you love the job, and so do your best. It's not saying that, oh, my salary is not good and therefore I won't wear. No, our job is so public. If you're a good writer, you're a good writer. The byline is there. If you're a good broadcaster, you're a good broadcaster. It doesn't matter whether you're on channels or on Arise or on NTA or on TVC. Are good, you are good. So hone your skills where you are and do it well. And the truth is, most media organizations are really trying to pay well. We know that advertising is what keeps it going. The economy is not that great. And there are so many media houses. It's not that great that we say you have money enough to be doing what you're doing. But you know what? And I think most of these journalists the ones that get it right always make it somehow. I mean, you are there, a presenter, for example, right? And you're very good. You can be a master of ceremony. You can anchor events, but they will have to see you first on your job. If you're a good writer, your byline, people know you. They will look for you when they want to write speeches. They will look for you when they want to edit their book. So just do your job well where you are at, right? It's very important.
Yes.
So when I see people not very good on air, it pains me that they think that they are doing themselves. They think they're doing themselves.
Yes, I was going to ask you, other than the suggestions that you have put forward as regards where people or what else broadcasters can do to earn money, what are the other things that they can do other than MCing, writing, editing? What are the other I'm looking for the right word, genuine avenues through which a journalist can make legitimate. In fact, the word I was looking for, legitimate. What are the other legitimate avenues through which a journalist or a media person can make money?
They can endorse products.
Okay.
They can produce. Like, for example, because I was a reporter and I used to go out, I did documentaries. Most of my colleagues had commissioned to do documentaries. And again, the truth is, you can also get other jobs. You can do 2 lines of business. The fact I'm a broadcaster does not mean, if I have a sense of style, for example, I can be a stylist. I can start providing a service for people and be making money. If I am good at whatever it is I'm good at, apart from being able to speak, I will create another business and begin to do it. You can manufacture, you can produce something,
All right. At what point did you decide to be a broadcaster and what prompted it?
That's a tall order. I would say it was by accident, even though I always knew that I would be in communication.
Okay.
But to be on television was really by accident because it's just being at the right place at the right time and you have the interest. You know how they say, opportunity makes, when you are prepared, an opportunity comes. I've always liked to talk, and I've always wanted to be able to package information because I was only a child when I used to admire commercials like the Coca-Cola commercial on television, and you see a commercial and you see in 1 minute the story had been told. So from childhood, I'd always read to myself. You know how kids are they're thinking that they're going to be newscasters tomorrow. I've always tried to read and speak correct English. So it just happened that I was, the first time I ever went on television was in Sokoto during my youth service. And the producer of a youth program, who's Danla Dibako, didn't have his presenter on, and I was the assistant, and said, okay, are you sure you can do it? I said, yes, I can do it. And I got on television one day once. I said, okay, television is not a bad idea. But that was youth service, and I didn't do it. But I came back, and I came back home to Benin, when I was in Sokoto, and the Benin Television Authority, then it was BTV. No, it was BTV, Bendel Television Authority. They were advertising for newscasters. I said, look, why not? I don't mind being on television. Let me go and try. I auditioned, I got it, and that was it. The television hooked me. It's a newscaster. I remember Babangida came to Benin that time for an inspection or something, and they were looking for reporters. I said, I can do reporting too. My boss said, yes. I said, yes, I can do reporting. I will go. So I went, I offered myself, I went, covered it, and came. So I became a reporter newscaster. When I changed to NTA, coming to Lagos, it was easy for me because I already had that experience. So that's it. So it just happened, and I found that it was a marriage of my desires to be able to marry pictures to sound to a story. I just loved it. So it wasn't for me. For me, it wasn't about coming to read the news. It was about being able to communicate the emotion of the story, and that was why broadcasting got me. I'm an audiovisual person any day. Even though I publish a magazine, you find that I publish a lifestyle magazine that is likely almost audiovisual because mostly pictures. Fine pictures, words, they attract you and you want to read. So
Yes.
Basically how I ended up on there.
Yes, I'll still come to the magazine.